Good morning, each and everyone present over here, and welcome to everyone present in this webinar. Currently, the country is under a complete lockdown for past 50 days. We all know that. All the highways are closed, all the air routes and train routes are closed, yet the light of knowledge is traveling. This is the power of curiosity. No lockdown or neither no any virus can stop the knowledge from reaching the curious minds. In these tough times also, due to the constant efforts from Gujarat University and Gujarat Science Academy along with Athens Tech, we are learning with this. When we are very fortunate that we have organized this, we got the guidance and we organized this webinar. I once again welcome you all. Now moving ahead, I would like to invite the President of Gujarat Science Academy for the opening remarks as well as the presidential address. And now I would like to welcome Professor Dr. Pankaj S. Joshi. Sir is a very renowned pioneer researcher and a very eminent astrophysicist. And under his leadership, we have organized this webinar. I would like to welcome Professor Dr. Pankaj S. Joshi, sir, for his opening remarks. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
Respected Vice Chancellor Dr. Bhavsar has been under the eminent leadership of Professor Ingridji, Abhijit Sen, and many other stalwarts has been doing its own bit to spread the scientific temper basically in Gujarat. And the most important thing is that we are also connecting nationally as well as even internationally. Uh, Current situation is a very special situation, and it is heartening to see that the workers of the academy, the volunteers, the workers, the secretaries, everybody is doing their immense effort to connect with the students, the young citizens, as well as Gujarat as a whole by means of this series of webinars. Just a couple of weeks ago, we have had a webinar organized in collaboration with Saurashtra University, and now it is wonderful to see that we are collaborating with Gujarat University and now on this very important
Enlarge it, then I don't see this.
because what we really need to do is really understand, what is happening. This is a very novel phenomenon. Even scientists, the virologists, the doctors, everyone is trying to understand what is this phenomenon that this, virus is causing, the nature of the virus, its evolution, so on and so forth. So I congratulate Gujarat University as well as all the people connected with this effort. That hopefully with this effort we will take the message, the understanding further. Just a couple of sentences I should say about our future vision. We, the Gujarat Science Academy, would like to, connect with the universities and scientific institutions and eminent citizens, scientists, aware, citizens who are always interested in the progress of the state and the nation, connect all together. And by this kind of connections, we want to achieve two things. Number one, the number of students in Gujarat who are taking science, who are scientifically oriented, is at the moment a very small number, absolutely inadequate to make the name for Gujarat even on the national scale, not to speak of international scale. Uh, we want to galvanize our efforts to create more awareness so that most students are attracted. They come to know the vast opportunities that are there, in the scientific investigation, scientific and medical research, and so on. Right now, the parents are woefully, unaware. They only know the professional courses. So this is the one important task that we have. The second task that is ahead of us is we give awards, we encourage research, but I think we have to take the research and innovation at the ground level. We have to encourage the creativity and innovation amongst our students and the youth. Again, I congratulate, welcome, and thank, as may be appropriate, all concerned. And it is absolutely great that Professor Dr. Sudhir Shahji, who is an eminent neurologist, psychiatrist, I would say many things are combined in his personality. Dr. Sudhir Bhai, for gracing the occasion to talk, and I welcome everybody. I especially thank the Vice Chancellor, Gujarat University, with whom we plan to have many more collaborations. Thank you again. Welcome everybody. And we now begin the series. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your presidential address. Now, moving ahead, we have with us our guest of honor, Dr. Ashok Kumar Singhvi, sir. We all know him. Sir is a very great pioneer researcher in the field of earth sciences. Sir is also the immediate past president of Gujarat Science Academy, and presently it is the matter of proud that Sir is currently the vice president of Indian National Science Academy, so-called INSA. With this brief introduction, I would like to welcome our guest of honor for their address. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Can you unmute me?
Sir, we can hear you.
Sir. You are audible, sir.
Unmuted. Okay. Professor Himanshu Bhai, Professor Pankaj Joshi, Professor Jagdish Bhavsar, Professor Kajjar, Professor Jain, Professor Tushar Pandya, speakers of the day, Professor Sudhir Shah. I'm extremely happy to be associated with this event. And I'm happy that Gujarat Science Academy has initiated this series, and this is the second in the series, first one being at Rajkot. Friends, these are special times, and special times require special efforts. You'll also realize that we create something, we improve upon them, and we survive at a higher level. This has been the case so far, and we have survived well. But now the speed with which the world is changing, the environment is changing, we have to add to this an element of anticipation. Can we anticipate future challenges that come to us? And can we, as an academia, do something on that lines? So one of the things we need to do and brainstorm of how do we anticipate future challenges in terms of stresses on health, stresses on climate change or whatever, and then prepare the society for those challenges. This time in COVID, we were caught unawares and we did not even know about how to handle this, even though we have handled the previous SARS virus reasonably well. This should not happen again, and that's one of the role we need to think about as academicians, that how do we do that? Okay. Now, what is the role of academies and academia? One of the important roles that we need to play is to interface science with the society, and meetings like this, an interaction of professors, experts like Professor Sudhir Shah, Joshi Pura, Professor Neeta Shah, and Rakesh Rawal will do this job effectively. I'm sure people by and large will understand, and each one of them, us who is hearing these lectures, should at least talk to our own families to make them aware of what is happening in science. The second thing is, can we use this pandemic and adversity into opportunity? And that's where we need to think harder. Can we make sure that we can use this opportunity to create new research programs which will be of future consequence? Can we not think of that all our research projects, be it in engineering, be it research, could be addressing to a specific aspect of some issue of importance to society? One of the programs that I think which Gujarat University with a good environmental science department, forensic science department, chemistry department can look at is the impact of virus in the sewage and how does that sewage will translate into future infections. We don't know anything about it. So examining the sewage and how we can make sure that sewage will not be the secondary source of infection through the vegetables which are being produced in the sewage water. So some of these kinds of issues we can take up, and I would recommend that there should be a continuous brainstorming sessions being held to develop new ideas, new paradigms, which can take the science forward. And I think it's not one person's job. Each one of us have to be equally engaged and committed. I compliment Professor Pankaj Joshi, Professor Tushar Bhai, for initiating the series. But I always felt that it's easy to do activity, but very hard to maintain it. I'm sure you will do all that is needed to maintain it, and we'll all to support you. I wish the event all success, and I'm eagerly looking forward to hearing Professor Sudhir Vaishya. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your address. Now, we would like to call our chief guest for this inaugural function and the in-charge Vice Chancellor, sir, of Gujarat University, Dr. Jagdish Bhavsar, sir. Welcome, sir.
નમસ્તે.
Vajira.
ગુજરાત યુનિવર્સિટી અને ગુજરાત સાયન્સ એકેડેમીના ઉપક્રમે 4 દિવસીય વ્યાખ્યાન શ્રેણી આજથી પ્રારંભ થઈ રહી છે. તેનો હું આનંદ વ્યક્ત કરું છું. વૈશ્વિક મહામારીને કારણે આપણું પ્રત્યક્ષ મળવું શક્ય બનતું નથી. વિજ્ઞાનના આવિષ્કારને પરિણામે આજે આપણે પરોક્ષ રીતે અભિવ્યક્તિના મારફતે મળી રહ્યા છીએ. વૈશ્વિક મહામારીના ફસાયેલા માનવ જીવનને કેવી રીતે સુરક્ષિત કરી શકાય તે આજે બધાની ચિંતા અને ચિંતનનો વિષય બન્યો છે. ગુજરાત યુનિવર્સિટી અને ગુજરાત સાયન્સ એકેડેમીએ આ વૈશ્વિક મહામારીના સંદર્ભમાં આજે જે ચિંતન શ્રેણી આયોજિત કરી છે તે બદલ આયોજકોને અભિનંદન આપું. ગુજરાત યુનિવર્સિટી એ 1949માં સ્થપાયેલી ગુજરાતની સર્વપ્રથમ યુનિવર્સિટી. આજે ગુજરાત રાજ્યમાં 5 સ્ટાર યુનિવર્સિટી તરીકે ગુજરાત યુનિવર્સિટી પોતાનું સ્થાન ધરાવે છે. 335 થી વધારે કોલેજો, 3.5 લાખથી વધારે વિદ્યાર્થીઓ આજે આ યુનિવર્સિટી સાથે જોડાયેલા છે. ગુજરાત યુનિવર્સિટી એ યુવાન કુલપતિ ડોક્ટર હિમાંશુ પંડ્યાના નેતૃત્વમાં રિસર્ચ, ડેવલપમેન્ટ, એકેડેમિક એક્સેલન્સ, ઇનોવેશનના ક્ષેત્રે નોંધપાત્ર સિદ્ધિઓ હાંસલ કરી છે. પદ્મશ્રી ડોક્ટર સુધીરભાઈ શાહ, ડોક્ટર નીતાબેન શાહ, ડોક્ટર જોશીપુરા સાહેબ, ડોક્ટર રાકેશભાઈ રાવલ, આ અભિવ્યક્તિના અંતર્ગત આપ સૌને COVID-19 માંથી કેવી રીતે બહાર આવવું તે માટેનું સુચારુ માર્ગદર્શન આપવાના છે. ડોક્ટર એમ કે જૈન, પંકજભાઈ, આ બધાએ ખૂબ જ સુંદર આયોજન આ 4 દિવસીય શ્રેણીનું કર્યું છે. આજે જે સ્થિતિ નિર્માણ થઈ છે, 100 વર્ષ પહેલા આ જ પ્રકારની સ્થિતિ આ વિશ્વના અંદર ઉપસ્થિત થઈ હતી. આખા વિશ્વના અંદર આ જ પ્રકારનો જે સ્થિતિ નિર્માણ થઈ હતી એના પરિણામ સ્વરૂપ 5 કરોડથી વધારે લોકો એ પોતાના જાન ગુમાવ્યા. 1.5 કરોડ લોકો એ ભારતના અંદર એ વખતે જાન ગુમાવ્યા હતા. સેન્સસની જે હિસ્ટ્રી જે છે એ હિસ્ટ્રીના અંદર 1921 એટલે 1921 નું વર્ષ જે છે એને એક માઇલસ્ટોન વર્ષ તરીકે લેવામાં આવે. કેમ માઇલસ્ટોન તરીકે લેવામાં આવે છે? તો 1921 ની જે સેન્સસ ભારતના અંદર થયું, આપણે ખબર છે કે ભારતમાં દર 10 વર્ષે સેન્સસનું કામ થાય છે. તો 1921 ના વર્ષે જે સેન્સસ થયું એમાં ભારતની પોપ્યુલેશન એ ઘટી. 1921 પછી ભારતના પોપ્યુલેશનના અંદર સતત વધારો થયો. એ જે ઘટાડો જે થયો હતો ભારતના અંદર, એ તે વખતની સ્થિતિ જે હતી, ભારતના અંદર આટલી સુવિધા ઉપલબ્ધ નહોતી, ભારતમાં આપણું શાસન પણ નહોતું. પરિસ્થિતિ આજે બદલાઈ છે. આજે તબીબી સગવડો વધી છે, સમાજની જાગૃતિ પણ વધી છે, સહકારની ભાવના પણ વધી છે, સરકારની સતર્કતા અને માર્ગદર્શન પણ વધ્યા છે. આ બધી જ પરિસ્થિતિની અંદર આજે ગુજરાત યુનિવર્સિટી અને ગુજરાત સાયન્સ એકેડેમી માનવ જીવનને કેવી રીતે બહાર લાવી શકાય, માનવ જીવન કેવી રીતે પુનઃ સારી રીતે પોતાનું કામ કરી શકે, એ માટે આ 4 દિવસીય શ્રેણી લઈને આવી છે. તેના આજના આ પ્રારંભ પ્રસંગે મારું ખૂબ જ આનંદ વ્યક્ત કરું છું. સૌને શુભકામના પાઠવું છું. આપણું ચિંતન મહાત્મા ગાંધી, ચાણક્ય, આ બધું જ ચિંતન આજની આ જે પરિસ્થિતિ ભારતના અંદર વિશ્વમાં નિર્માણ થઈ છે એ વખતે ચોક્કસ ઉપયોગી થશે એવું મને લાગી રહ્યું છે. વિશ્વ આજે ભારત તરફ જોઈ રહ્યું છે અને ભારત એ ભારતના શિક્ષણ જગત તરફ એ સુખદ ઉકેલ માટે, વિશ્વને બહાર લાવવા માટે એ નજર કરીને બેઠું છે. ત્યારે આપની આ શ્રેણી એ ચોક્કસ તે દિશાના અંદર સમાજને, વિદ્યાર્થીઓને અને જે રિસર્ચ કરીને નવી નવી જે શોધ કરવા માંગે છે એના માટે ઉપયોગી થશે. સર્વે ભવંતુ સુખીના, સર્વે સંતુ નિરામયા. મારો ખૂબ જ આનંદ વ્યક્ત કરું છું. સુધીરભાઈ અને આપ સૌની વચ્ચે વધારે સમય લેવો એ મને ઉચિત લાગતો નથી. પુનઃ સૌને અભિનંદન. ઓલ ધ બેસ્ટ.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind address and motivation. Now, I would like to invite Professor and Head from Life Sciences Department of Gujarat University and Secretary of Gujarat Science Academy, Professor Dr. Nayan Jain, sir, to present the vote of thanks and end this inaugural session. Welcome, sir.
Okay. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Jagdish Bhavsarji, Honorable Dr. A.K. Singhi, ex-President GSA, Dr. Pankaj Joshi, President GSA, Dr. Sudhir Shah, Dr. Nita Shah, Dr. Rakesh Rawal, Dr. Joshi Purasar, and all the dear participants who are participating in this seminar, welcome. It is really great pleasure and privilege that I am proposing the vote of thanks on behalf of this webinar. Gujarat Science Academy and Gujarat University has been associated for conducting the series of lectures since long. That is, I think, 7th or 8th lecture in the series. We are fortunate that Dr. Sudhir Shah, Padma Shri, he is the second time joining with us. Earlier, he has talked on the happiness, science of happiness, and today he is going to discuss spiritually and neurological aspect of the COVID-19. We do understand that COVID-19 is going to the spread, the measurement what we are taking right now is not that much effective, we understand. So it's very essential that we should look the COVID-19 as a we are living together. And in that one, the interdisciplinary approach of science is must. So in that line, Gujarat University and Gujarat Science Academy thought that we should have the interdisciplinary approach of the COVID-19, looking to the various aspects. We know the spreading of COVID-19 is occurred through the human to human, aerosol transmission, surface transmission. So naturally, the preventing measurement or cautious aspect of that one is must to the understanding of the science. In that one, we have the 4 eminent speakers today: Dr. Sudhir Shah, Dr. Kamlesh Joshi Purasar, Dr. Nita Shah, Dr. Rakesh Rawal. Now, in this inaugural session, I really fortunate that all the our guests, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Jagdish Bhavsar sir, has agreed And in spite of his busy schedule, and just after he has took the charge of entire vice chancellor, he was agreed to come and inaugurate the session and bless the participants. We are also fortunate that Dr. A.K. Singhvi, his busy schedule for the INSA and other activity, has agreed to become a guest of honor and inaugurate the session. I am also thankful to our president, Professor Pankaj Joshi, who has agreed and given the opening remark. Now, besides this one, I also thankful to our all four speakers, Dr. Sudhir sir, Dr. Nita sir, Dr. Rakesh Rawal, Dr. Joshipura sir. In spite of their busy schedule, fall on the Sunday, they have able to make it point that they should join the inaugural session and deliver their views. I also thankful to all the participants and delegates who have attended. Thank you all. Now,
Thank you.
we should start the session now.
Thank you so much, Jain sir, for your vote of thanks. Now we end this inaugural session officially here, and let us move to the most awaiting part of today. Now, to introduce our today's speaker, I would like to invite Dr. Tushar Pandya sir, the Additional Secretary in the Gujarat Science Academy. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Thank you, Chintan. Good morning to all of you, respected dignitaries online, educators, dear participants, and my dear students. It gives me great pleasure, and I'm really honored to introduce Professor Dr. Sudhir V. Shahji. He is a consultant neurologist of Ahmedabad, Gujarat. He took his Doctor of Medicine in Neurology from the University of Bombay, and currently Professor Shahji is a professor and head of the Department of Neurology at the KM School of PG Medicine and Research Institute, VS General Hospital. And he is the director of neuroscience at the Sterling Hospital. He is also an honorary neurologist to the government of Gujarat. Dear friends, Professor Shah has specialized in a various aspects of neurology, including the understanding and cure of disease like epilepsy, strokes, movement disorder, and neuromuscular diseases. Professor Shah pioneered the interventional neurology in Gujarat. His work on a monk we call Mataji, who lived only on air, has received an international approval. Dear friends, Dr. Shah has authored several original research papers, book chapters, and 4 books. It's remarkable that his books have been extensively sold, almost 6,000 copies, and all the money that earned has been used for the philanthropy. Numerous documentary films have been made on his work by European and American media agency. He was variously interviewed by BBC, the Discovery Channel, CNBC, and other media channels. Dear students, based on his contribution, Professor Shahji has been extensively honored by several national and international agencies. These include the prestigious and the 4th highest civilian award of India, the Padma Shri, the coveted Dr. B.C. Roy Award by the Medical Council of India as an eminent medical teacher, and the UN Award for the Development of Neurology. He is an honorary fellow and a past executive committee members of the Indian Academy of Neurology, and is an active member of several international and national neurology bodies. Dear friends, Professor Shah has multifaceted personality, a teacher, a writer, a musician, an orator, a learned scholar, a scientist, a philanthropist, and a colleague, and I would say an administrator. His personal library contains about 9,000 books on philosophy, religion, ethics, and culture, and he has given selfless medical services to the 5,000 saints from different religions and sects. And he strongly believes in charity, dear friends. Friends, today he will discuss this talk on aspect of coronavirus, COVID-19, its spreads, its neurological aspect, as well as the psychological aspect. He will discuss the neurological changes in the brain during various modes of the mind, human psychology, and spirituality. With this brief introduction, I will request Professor Sasser to deliver a talk. Sir, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I feel honored, humbled, and happy, Dr. Pandya. And at the outset, I want to thank Gujarat Science Academy as well as Gujarat University for providing me this platform and giving me the first ever lecture of this series. I acknowledge the presence of dignitaries, Professor Jagdish Bhavsar, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Joshi Saab, the President of GSA, Professor Singhvi Saab, and K. Jain Saab, and a lot of other dignitaries here. Well, today I'm going to talk on COVID-19, the pathophysiology, epidemiology, clinical features, management, prevention strategies. Well, given a choice, I would have loved to talk on neurology, psychology, and spirituality. But this is the first lecture, so I will have to spend good 35-30 minutes on the COVIDology at least, so that everybody gets the scientific perspective. There will be a lot of information, good amount of knowledge, but more than that, I would love to share the wisdom part of it, because the way forward is more important than what we are right now in. So my disclaimer is that I am a neurologist, and COVIDology is basically a subject of infection disease specialists, critical care specialists, and physicians. However, I will try to cover whatever is relevant and important for all of you. And it will take at least 55-60 minutes for me to cover up all these details for all of you. Am I audible to all of you, please?
Okay. Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, so let us start. What is a virus? Right now, as you know, and seniors have mentioned that Earth is under maintenance. There is all total closed down, as if the Earth is undergoing a new installation of Windows 2020, and therefore is a virus killing bugs fixing program, and some new things will come up, lot of new things for all of us, and it will also clear some of the virus. Maybe, who knows, we are also a virus for the Earth, don't know. So this is a new window that is being installed, and we are all getting prepared for the new window. And exactly on 31st December, Earth decided to do so. So right now we are on the new normal, as you can say. So what is a virus? Virus is a submicroscopic infectious agent that replicates only inside the living cell or organism. Viruses can infect all types of life forms, from animals to plants to microorganisms, including bacteria, archaea. Viruses are genomic material which are lying inside our body, outside our body, in water, in air, and everywhere. There are millions and millions of viruses that are coexisting with us all these days. And at some particular time, they start infecting us when the host immunity is down. And there are a lot of other theories which we'll see. So when infected, a host cell is forced to rapidly produce thousands of identical copies of the original virus. And then virus exists in the form of independent particles or virions consisting of so many things. So you can understand this sub-microscopic particle, a virus, has taken the whole Earth for ransom, and we are all under a lot of very big problems. And this genetic material is the long molecules of DNA or RNA that encode the structure of the proteins by which the virus acts. A protein code, the capsid, which surrounds and protects the genetic material, and in some cases outside envelope of lipids, as we have in this particular virus. So this is the basic structure of a virus. There is a capsid, there is a nucleic acid genomic material, and then there is an envelope. And which are the types of virus? There are a lot of classifications, but DNA virus and RNA virus are the simplest classification. Adenovirus, hepavirus, herpes virus, these are DNA viruses. The RNA viruses are retrovirus like HIV, HTLV. Ortho mixed viruses are influenza viruses, which we are very well versed with. Flaviviruses and dengue kind of thing. Then picona and paramyxo. Coronaviruses were rediscovered in 1960. We can't say that they are new viruses, they must be existing since ages, but we discovered in 1960 and named as corona because there is a crown shape due to the presence of some spike glycoprotein, as we can see on this. This is how it is called coronavirus. And single stranded RNA with a large diameter of 100 to 200 nanomicron, and coronavirus, it started, as you know, in Wuhan, China. These are the different DNA viruses like double stranded DNA, double stranded RNA, single stranded DNA, and single stranded RNA. So this is the structure of a coronavirus: spike, envelope, nucleocapsid, hemagglutinin esterase, membrane, and the genomic material. And as you know, in the corona group, we have SARS-CoV that was in 2002, then MERS-CoV that was occurred in 2012 and went away in 2013 almost, and now we have SARS-CoV-2. And the natural roots is the bat, and then there could be intermediate animal host. So the outbreak, you should know, what is endemic? A health condition that occurs at a steady rate among the population. Outbreak is when that condition occurs above the endemic level. Like we are endemic for malaria or dengue, and then suddenly there is an outbreak. Epidemic is an outbreak that has spread to a larger geographic area, as for example, the whole Asian continent or maybe whole African continent. Pandemic is a condition that has spread globally. So this is a pandemic. Now we have some brief view of the pathophysiology. This is very interesting. The SARS-CoV virus, MERS-CoV virus, and SARS-CoV-2, these are all coronaviruses, and this is a cell membrane of a cell, and these are the receptors. So they bind to a specific receptor on cell membrane. In case of SARS-CoV and SARS-CoV-2, that is corona, new corona, the receptor ACE2 is the important. This, remember please this, because it will come later on in the drugs. While the MERS was getting attached to the receptor DPP4. So through this receptor, they get internalized into the cell. The genomic material comes inside. This is the genomic material that gets entry through this receptor. This is very important to know. So, as I said, these are the binding receptors for SARS, MERS, and COVID, and this is the site of the receptor is. These are all respiratory viruses. So lower respiratory is the most important thing, but generally they first get attached to nose or the throat, and then they trickle down and produce pneumonia, consolidation, hypoxemia, and whatnot. So this is the so take this for example, SARS-CoV-2 is the virus, this is like protein coming to contact with the ACE2 receptor. Then with the help of that, this takes it inside the membrane, and then it comes inside, is released inside the cell. And then there is a release from the endoplasmic membrane, and then the viral RNA is released. Then here it becomes active, gets multiplied. Virus per se cannot multiply outside, but once inside the cell, it has a property to multiply, and that is how they are peculiar. And then, as you can see, that release viral replication material. Now here there is a lot of multiplication, and this then comes outside the cell and then goes on multiplying in other cells. So this is how the whole things goes on and on. Primary viral replication is presumed to occur in mucosal epithelium of upper respiratory tract, that is nasal cavity and pharynx, as I mentioned, with further multiplication in lower respiratory tract and GI, giving rise to mild viremia. Few infections are controlled at this point and remain asymptomatic depending upon the host response. While some patients have also exhibited non-respiratory symptoms like liver, heart, kidney, diarrhea, etc. So this is how, why some people overreact. That is called immune system reaction or cytokine storm. Cytokines are the chemicals which get released in response to virus to fight out the whole thing. So it's the immune response when goes to overdrive, as for example occurs in some case of influenza, SARS, and MERS, and is also associated with non-infectious disease like multiple sclerosis, pancreatitis. The protective response is what when immune cells arrive at the site of infection but do not overwhelm. So they allow the whole system to go on like blood flow, oxygen, everything goes on in the routine stage while they silently fight out the infection. In the overactive response, the uncontrolled levels of cytokines activate too many immune cells leading to hyperinflammation, swelling, and then everything gets closed, the hyaline membrane, proteins, everything gets clotted. And you must have read in newspapers the cytokine storm and the drug tocilizumab and difficulty in breathing and pneumonia and all those things is because of cytokine storm. Very peculiar thing for this virus. So first stage in early infection, there is a lymphocytopenia, decreased WBC. In the second stage, it's called pulmonary phase. There is abnormal chest finding imaging wise, but the third stage is very difficult for patient to sustain. When some 10-15% of people become serious, they have elementary inflammatory and cardiac biomarkers, and that creates the problem of the. So with that brief pathophysiology, which was important to understand the future things which we'll discuss. So let's briefly see the clinical symptoms. This is a chart showing systemic issues like fever, cough, fatigue, sputum production, which is mild headache, hemoptysis, bleeding in the chest while coughing, cardiac injury, hypoxemia, dyspnea, with difficulty breathing, lymphopenia, diarrhea. And the respiratory problems are sneezing, running nose, sore throat, pneumonia, ground glass opacities, and then viremia, anemia, acute respiratory distress syndrome, and that is the most difficult thing to control. And you'll be surprised to know that disease, approximately 80% cases are mild to moderate, and some of them are asymptomatic. They don't even know that there's 15% are severe and 5% are critical. So disease progresses approximately in 10 to 15%. Mild to moderate cases become severe, and then approximately 15 to 20% of these severe cases become critical. So from exposure to first symptom, it takes usually 5 to 6 days. Then from first symptom to recovery, in mild cases, 2 weeks, while those who get severe disease, they recover after 3 to 6 weeks, and some of them, they die. So the complications are pneumonia, acute respiratory distress syndrome, viremia, cardiac injury. 39% may need ICU. In some series it is 10 to 15%, and then 68% can be discharged. 7 to 15% die, while in some countries the death rate is low. And then let's talk about the neurological symptoms. But before that, you must have read about the comorbidities. Every day they are talking on TV regarding comorbidities. So what are those? Those patients who have associated cardiovascular disease, let's say cardiac failure, stents, pulmonary disease, asthma, metabolic disease like diabetes, kidney disease, hepatic liver disease, hemoglobinopathies, chronic neurological conditions, extremes of age, immunosuppressive conditions like HIV, some drugs, septic situation, children's on aspirin, etc. These are the people who are comorbid and they gallop fast and they succumb sometimes. So let's see next thing, neurological complications. So first is a direct infection. That is how neurology is affected, but that is rare. Usually it is para-infectious, immune mediated or critical illness related, and this is how the whole gamut of different neurological disorders like they can have meningitis, anosmia, loss of smell, encephalitis, post-infectious ADEM, para-infectious brainstem encephalitis, neuropathy with all folding weakness, myositis, and hemorrhagic encephalopathy. Most important is stroke. So this is how risk factors for neurological conditions are smoking, age, genetic susceptibility, mutation in the endemic strains of virus, and individuals with existing ailment, etc. Neurological manifestations are found in 36.4% of some series of patients. However, the symptoms described like dizziness, headache, impaired consciousness, and represent disturbance in neural function rather than neurological disease. So they are common. Anosmia, loss of smell and loss of taste have received much attention, but we find in other corona group of viruses also has been mentioned. So viruses, how do they read? They can read the CNS through blood route or through retrograde neural propagation. So now dissemination is possible by the polarization of neurons. So it is not necessarily the virus goes only through blood. It can go through retrograde transmission from the nerve. And this is the way you can say. Sometimes it comes from the nose to creepy from plate to olfactory bulb and then goes to the brain, or from the blood it goes to brain, and then there are a lot of other ways. The putative mechanisms underlying neurological consequences of COVID are immunological and non-immunological. So because of hypotension, hypoxia, there is a clotting in the blood system or thrombosis of the blood vessels. So there is one way. In immunology, because of the cytokine storm or some allergic mechanism, there is a maladaptive cytokine profile and there is septic encephalopathy, delirium, irrelevant talking, and altered sensorium, etc., as well as clotting in the blood vessel and sometimes positive antiphospholipid antibody syndrome, etc. So one way is hypoxic brain injury because of this congestion in the lung and consolidation. Severe pneumonia can result into systemic hypoxia and brain damage or immune-mediated injuries. These two things you remember, either due to hypoxemia or due to immune-mediated injury. And this is how the lung looks like on CT scan, and this is how we see clotting of the blood vessels in minor cases of stroke. In major cases, you get even higher clotting. So that brings to the next question, management of COVID-19. And there are, as we mentioned, these are the risk factors, and these people they are high risk patients, and we have to first assess on admission, do they have any high risk condition? Minor risk are those patients who are below 20 years old, children without medical condition, rest are in the moderate risk. After that, we do all these complete blood count, metabolic profile, CK, CRP, ferritinine, and prothrombin time, D-dimer, etc., which are medical jargon, but you might know that. Test for COVID-19, we do nasal swab with a specific method, and the test applied is PCR testing. A test sample is swabbed from the back of the nose and processed to isolate genetic material. And these small pieces of specifically engineered material called primers are introduced and bind to the isolated genetic material which you have isolated, and that initiates the amplification. This is an amplification process. If there is a genetic viral material, it would amplify with the help of primer. And then fluorescent markers bound to the copies during PCR are released and can be detected. So if there is a viral genome, we can amplify and get it tested through PCR technology. It's very, very specific but not sensitive because it depends on so many factors. There are certain tests called ELISA test, and all these are also developed for this, and they are to some extent useful. Imaging, we have already shown the CT scan, then we come briefly to the management aspect. So what is clinical management of COVID-19? Pharmacological treatment, vaccine, and nutritional immune boost. I'm aware that madam is going to take tomorrow plasma and immunotherapy, so I would not go into details. And here I'm just mentioning management in brief. There are no non-effective antivirals so far for coronavirus infections, and various candidates with potential anti-COVID activity are being evaluated for clinical trials. But this slide is most important for all those who are students of science or those who want to understand the drug development. Look, this is the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and this is the spikes, and this is the receptor, and this is the cytokine storm. And this is how the virus enters inside, and then there is RNAs are released, and then there's polypeptides, non-structural proteins, and then RNA-dependent polymerase, enzymes, and then there are structural process and assembly, and again the virus is shed down. At each putative step, there is a possibility of a drug. As for example, for cytokine storm, which is outside the cell, we have tocilizumab and sarilumab, which is a different thing. It doesn't act on the virus, but on the cytokine storm. And there are a lot of other drugs being developed onto this. When the virus enters with the help of this receptor, here you can block it with the help of monoclonal antibodies and also with the drugs like chemostat, mesylate, etc. You might have read in yesterday's news that Sorrento Pharma has developed a new monoclonal antibody. Similarly, Israel is also on the way of developing new antibodies. These antibodies bind to this place and does not allow the virus to come inside. Then is the another drug at this level, membrane fusion level Erbidol. Then there are drugs, chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, that doesn't allow, they don't allow the virus to get internalized, and at these levels, so theoretically, they are useful. And not always so, but yes, theoretically it is so that these drugs also have some side effects. And then at this level, there is another drug at translation level, the proteolysis level, you have lopinavir and darunavir. For RNA-dependent polymerase, we have ribavirin, Remstat. You must have heard a lot about remdesivir, ribavirin, favipiravir. These are the drugs where we act on the non-structural protein to this pathway, and then there are other drugs. So it is very interesting to know it. We have different targets, and some of these targets can be combined. So let's talk about the REMS. The mechanism of action is extrapolated from the mass COVID experience. Out of 100 patients, it helps in 8 to 15 patients only. The drug is very costly, 22 lakh per dose, and 7-8 doses. And it helps in premature termination of viral transmission. So in a country like ours, it is a little difficult game. Lopinavir and ritonavir, WHO is asked termination drug, but definite efficacy is not proven. Ribavirin is inhibitor of RNA polymerization. The study is done in, but it's a very toxic drug. Interferons can be theoretically used like IFN 2A, IFN 2B, IFN A. We use in neurology quite a lot, particularly in multiple sclerosis. And SARS-CoV-2 attenuates the interferon response of the innate immune system, impairs the antiviral T helper cells. Chloroquine, we talked. Proposed mechanism hampers the low pH dependent steps of viral replication, does not allow also to internalize. And those adjustment is not necessary, but it has been proposed for prophylaxis as well as for the treatment. And in many countries, it is in the protocol. Side effects for cardiac and some other patients, there will be QT prolongation. You have to also check the other drugs like erythromycin, and these two combined can produce arrhythmia, so we have to be very careful. Don't take any of these drugs, even for prophylaxis, without doctor's advice. Tocilizumab is IL-6 cytokine inhibitor. As we shown that it is outside the cell, it works, proposed to reduce the cytokine storm. Corticosteroids are not found to be very useful still. In a desperate measure, we use in some cases of septic shock or patient has some other indications. Ascorbic acid has a limited aims, it could be in animal models. Still, some countries give vitamin C regularly, and we can also take vitamin C and zinc for prophylaxis to improve the immunity. There are very few drugs in medical armamentarium which can definitely improve immunity. Out of them, vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D, multivitamins are some of them. Antibacterial therapies are used when there is secondary bacterial sepsis. These are the other drugs in pipeline. A lot of drugs is medical jargon, but for your information, these are the different drugs. Then critical care management of ICU patients is a separate subject which I cannot cover in short time. Convalescent plasma, antibodies from the convalescent plasma shown to suppress viremia and was given in patients having severe disease in countries abroad and some of the parts of India also. We do give plasma 200 ml from the recovered patient to the other patient, and that can, like from the patient who has recovered, we give the blood plasma to the infected other patient, and that can have passive immunity. Madam is going to talk on that. Plasma pheresis is also another method by which you can reduce the viral load from the system. Passive immunity can also be given with the help of IV gamma globulin, and in previous studies of SARS and MERS, it was found to be useful in some selected cases. What is the hope for future? Stem cell, yes, mesenchyme stem cell therapy for COVID present of some laboratories are working on this. Early results are encouraging. It is too early to conclude, but yes, stem cell, gene therapy, immunotherapy, these are the modern therapies, and that has answered to a lot of difficult disease, and that's how people are working on MSC, mesenchymal cell therapy. You should know that immunomodulatory and anti-inflammatory properties of MSC in the treatment of respiratory disease were confirmed by 17 completed clinical studies, and more than 70 are still going on, and many more are getting registered. Vaccine, lot of buzz about vaccine. We are hearing development of vaccine has been prioritized worldwide, and there are promising signs, but as of now, there is still no approved vaccine. And friends, there are a lot of diseases. We didn't have vaccine for HIV, we didn't have vaccine for dengue, we didn't have vaccine for so many viruses. And we don't know whether we'll have the vaccine, but we hope, and let's work on that. There are so many issues and pitfalls in development of vaccine, and the strains go on changing year after year, like in influenza, which is again a respiratory virus. The virus changes its strain, so every year we have to give new influenza vaccine. We don't know whether coronavirus will change every year, and then how many vaccines will produce. And to give to 130 crore population of India, it's not an easy task. But still, we still think that vaccine can give answer to some of the problems, and this is how the vaccines are developed. Scientists have taken genes for the spike protein on the surface of coronavirus and put them into a harmless virus like this gene they put inside there, then they have to replicate, and this produces in patient, in a healthy patient, this is given as a vaccine, so the immune system starts fighting against this so-called model, and when the real coronavirus comes, the immune system is already ready, and they don't hyperreact to something. So these are the different landscapes for the WHO. We have suggested for the vaccine. There are a lot of virus, adenovirus type vector, DNA vector, and so on. Then monoclonal antibodies. Sorrento Pharmaceutical Therapeutics have developed STI 1499, can flush out virus in 4 days from the body. That they have shown in vitro. Clinical experiments, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 are pending. Israel is also claiming that they have completed the antibody sequence. Oxford University, Jennifer Lab is claiming about a vaccine and so many things. And these are the different references that are used for all this material. Now we go on to the next level, that is prevention. So friends, this is more relevant to all of us. You should listen to this little more carefully. I will spend 5-10 minutes on that, and then I will go to this psychology and spirituality. We have covered neurology. So, friends, you know that when a person having infection of corona coughs, the droplets containing the virus stay in the air, and then that trickles into the other normal person's nose, throat, and possibly lungs. That is one way. And the other way is the droplets fall on the surface and subjects. We have unknowingly touched those surfaces like hardboard or maybe metal surface or telephone or mobile or whatnot, and that droplets eventually get into nose and throat. So this is how the whole thing. So one way is to, this is a very scientific and logical way. Mask can prevent the spread of the droplet from the person. social distancing, definitely you can understand, can reduce the spread of droplet. Mask on the other side, healthy person can prevent the infection to get, contaminate the person. For the surfaces, you get environmental cleaning of the surfaces, and then hand hygiene, wash your hands frequently, and avoid touching nose and face. This is most important. People have a habit of touching nose and face unnecessarily. There's kind of tick or habit, you can say, and this, friends, you should realize that from many such sources, when you touch nose and then the whole thing goes inside, that's why you have to wear the mask and forget the habit of touching the mouth and nose. It's very, very dangerous habit. So social distancing was studied in a lot of countries, and after China locked down properly, traffic suspension, home quarantine, etc., the very, very powerful ways, then only the infection rate came down. So social distancing and isolation is very, very important. I cannot overemphasize. Preventive measures are others. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Eyes are also equally infective. Wash your hands frequently for at least 20 seconds. Cough or sneeze into your arm or elbow, what we call as cough hygiene. Sanitize surfaces regularly. Avoid persons who are sick and stay home if you have fever or respiratory illness. So let's see hand hygiene. Each word is very important for all common people. You kindly spread this message in the community. That would be a great service to the society. Use appropriate product and technique. If you are using an alcohol-based hand rub product, it's preferable if hands are not visibly soiled. Rub hands for 20 to 30 seconds with this, and that would serve the purpose. But you use soap, running water, and single-use towel when hands are visibly dirty or contaminated with protein material, or you don't have alcohol-based material, then you use that, and that you have to use for 40 to 60 seconds. And there are ways how you do it. It's not that simple. There are different techniques you find from the internet how exactly you have to wash your hands and rub them, etc., etc. Be very careful. Then about the personal protection equipment, we call it PPE, face mask, which covers nose and mouth. It's N95 masks, which are more important. N99 are even more protective. Then you have to use face shield. Sometimes doctors use face shield and goggles while touching the patient. We wear gowns, aprons, which is not for common people. Gloves is something which is always useful for doctors touching patients, but for common people like all of you, when you are going to buy grocery or some other equipment, please make sure that you wear gloves, particularly when you are going to touch a lot of surfaces inadvertently. Please wear gloves and throw them off before you come in the home or in the outside dustbin, and that's very important. How do I use a face mask? I'm seeing on the TV daily a lot of officers and others, when they are talking on phone, they either bring down their face mask or they do it up and then touch. I think that should be seriously discouraged. Wash your hands for at least 20 seconds prior to putting a face mask. Very important. Face mask over nose and mouth. Ensure tight seal with no gaps and secure elastics of hands. Avoid touching the front of the face mask. If you do, wash hands for at least 20 seconds. So once you touch it, then wash your hands, because the virus has already settled. You have to touch and you have to wash your hands. Remove the face mask without touching the front. Discard in a closed bin and wash hands again for 20 seconds. Don't use the face mask again and again. The most important piece of PPE is our own human brain. Don't forget that. How long human coronaviruses can stay on surface? Plastic, 5 days. Wood, 4 days. Glass, 4 days. Paper, cardboard, 24 hours. Surgical gloves, 4-5 days. And stainless steel, 48 hours. But surface disinfection with 0.1% sodium hypochlorite or 60 to 70% ethanol is effective. Within 1 minute, they can kill this virus. And COVID-19 was not included in this study, but today there is no indication that SARS-CoV-2 behaves differently to other viruses. However, after some hours they die down, so those virus particles might be there, it doesn't affect. So don't be panic, but this is how the science tells us. Food safety, virus particles can be eliminated by washing hands with soap and water, etc., etc. So friends, once again, mask, physical distancing, mask, gloves, ever touching face, and hand hygiene, namaste hygiene, all these things you have known again and again, and do it and spread that message properly. So this is how patients sitting a distance, wearing masks, washing hands, etc. So together, let us fight coronavirus. About a few lines on immunity. Immunity boosters for patients. General measures are drink warm water throughout the day. It helps. Daily practice of yogasana, pranayam, meditation for at least 30 minutes as advised by Ministry of Ayush. Spices like haldi, turmeric, jeera, dhania, and lashun can also help. Don't indulge into alcohol drinking. Uh, Alcohol is for spreading on the surface and not for drinking. So be careful, have proper sleep, do exercise, and eat vegetables and fruits. So the psychoneuroimmunology studies of the different non-medical aspects say that drink warm water, practice yoga, spices that I said, chavan prashavale, golden milk, and then do nasal inhalation, twice a day steam inhalation, gargles, because the virus settles down in nose and throat. This is not emphasized properly in TV and media, but friends, I want to tell you that nasal inhalation twice a day, particularly when you come inside home, outside from outside. Then you do steam inhalation, do gargling, very important, and drink hot water whole day. According to Ayurveda, the Galo, Yashti Madhu, and Ashwagandha are also good immunomodulator and neuromodulators, and equally for respiration, black pepper, lindi pepper, salt, and peppermint, they call it Chatushkatu, and that is also useful for your information. Then we move straight to the psychological aspects. So psychology, fear of invisible and inevitable, that is the cause of panic. One characteristic nature of infectious disease compared with other condition is fear. Fear is directly associated with transmission rate and medium, with rapidity, invisibility, and the way it is unknown. So people are scared. If we would calculate the risks perfectly, we would not get scared because we know. But here there is a lot of uncalculated things. So morbidity, mortality, and lot of factors which are known and unknown in this condition, it is a cause of panic. And this leads to psychological challenges including stigmatization, those who have virus infections, and discrimination, loss, and all those things. General population have anxiety and worry about uncertain future, fear of contamination. People become hypochondriac, severely panic, hoarding of protective equipments and survival items, and they buy things in bulk, and anger and irritability and this undue attention of the TV and media. My God, the original virus is coronavirus. The second most serious virus is the fear virus, and third most serious virus, which spreads even dangerously, is the media virus, which spreads negativity. Please stop looking at the figures and graphs. They are of no use. What you are supposed to do is take all precautions that we have mentioned. Then next important things, which I am going to tell you in next few 20 minutes, would be most important for all of you. So this is how infected cases we already talked about stigma and guilt, etc. Healthcare workers is altogether we are facing a different problem. We have anxiety and in our individual role, competence, burnout, and sense of frustration. We see patients dying in front of us. It's a lot of problems. So friends, depression, substance abuse disorder, all these are the psychological complications of COVID. And then the generalized anxiety disorder, excessive worrying, panic, etc., is the hallmark of the whole thing, phobia. So that brings to a very important consideration. How does all this fear, why I said fear is a big virus? Because the three areas of the brain called insula, amygdala, and prefrontal cortex. These three are the generators of fear, anxiety, worry, hypervigilance, avoidance, and emotional dysregulation, particularly in response to such stimuli. Even otherwise, they have a constant some level of decay of all these things, but in response to all these, there is excessive release of fear chemicals, and that produces pituitary to really acetate stress hormones, and then the whole system, heart, kidney, liver, lung, everything is on stress, everything is on fire, you can say. There are increased release of inflammatory cytokines. We talk about IL-6, IL-1, TNF, IFN, and these reverberating circuits produce a lot of damage. Friends, people don't die of virus itself. Many of the times, the fear, and that produces the circuit, that is the cause of mortality and morbidity. So don't be panic. Even if you have virus, be positive. I would always use the term be positive and corona negative. Similarly, if you remain positive and you can cut down this cycle of fear and stress, I think you're done. So what are the ABC of mental well-being? Acknowledge your feelings and share. Awareness of realistic information, reliable sources. Go to the standard sources. This is why I appreciate Science Academia, Science Academy and University for inviting experts to give the first and truthful information. Don't rely on the unnecessary wrong sources of WhatsApp University and all those things. Go to the standard people and standard sites. So this is how avoid speculation and rumors. Be even don't forward wrong messages. Be physically active with gardening and grooming and doing exercise and running and do a lot of puzzling and painting and a lot of crafts. Junk food, always avoid. Eat fruits and veggies and nuts. Be a role model for children and neighbors. Communicate with empathy and allow expression and feeling. Talk to your friends, your seniors. You take care of people on telephone when you can't go. And social distancing is different. Social disconnection is different. So don't disconnect with the people. Okay. Avoid myths and negative news. Avoid COVID-19. No misinformation, please. Take a pledge. You will never forward the wrong information. Care for elderly. And chat and socialize. We continue to connect with people. And cultivate hobbies and routine to guide through times. And these are the hobbies you can see: music and carry and painting. And I'll give you some tips here. 5 pleasant activities that I would categorize: music, dance, art and creativity, reading, traveling, hiking, sports. Those of you who can do indoor sports or indoor exercise in these current times, and then gardening, grooming, photography. Friends, art, dance, and creativity are the best expressions of human existence. You know what? Corona has affected two things. It's a threat to human existence as well as a threat to human expressions. All human activities, including economy to politics, from hobbies to our own creativity, everything is a standstill, and we should not fall prey to that. Everything has changed and everything will change because post-COVID for 1.5 to 2 years at least we'll have a lot of things. But during this time, develop some art, science, creativity. Friends, music heals the soul and distresses. It triggers the production of happy chemical like serotonin. So if we have time, we'll take how the creation come into existence and origin of music. Right now, will go through quickly how music relieves stress, anxiety, it relieves depression, it improves cognitive abilities, heightens concentrations, reduces symptoms of insomnia. Music is a medicine of the soul. It heals the soul. So please listen to the best of the soothing music like classical music, Sugam Sangeet, etc. I personally don't approve jazz and pop and rap, but however, if it pleases you, do it. These actually sensitize the different senses. while the classical music is the doorway to the healing of the soul. So it's an altogether different world. Reading good books proven to reduce stress and increase relaxation. It's a library. As a library is a hospital for the mind. As Tushar said, we host 10,000 non-medical books in my own home, and we lavishly read all these. All four of us, we read this. We read to know that we are not alone. Sukh Sadhak Vidya and the power of subconscious mind, belief system, and how to think and grow rich, and lot of good books you can find and read. Traveling is also great, Mister. Right now, traveling means going from bedroom to drawing room and from drawing room to upstairs. That is our traveling. But whenever we have time, we should do traveling. Gardening is also a good stress buster, grooming, photography, and a lot of other. So, friends, coming again back to neurobiology of stress, serotonin, uh, glucocorticoid, and this CA3 circuits and entorhinal cortex. This complex circuitry tells us that when we are in stress and fear and other things, our whole memory system, cognitive functions, our judgment is also affected, your happiness is gone, and you operate on a very different level. You're a different person. So, friends, what is the way forward? The way forward from this funny situation, which Earth is giving every 100 years, is a centenary maintenance program that Earth runs almost. And from this, it is new to us, but not new to mankind. So we have to be happy and peaceful. We have to develop healthy lifestyle and routine. That some of that we have discussed. We have to do regular exercise, whatever best you can do at your home, balanced nutrition, diet, good sleep. Have enough sleep. Finish up all the pending sleep that you have. Learn creativity and new skill learning that we have discussed. Compassion is important, yoga and pranayam, meditation. So in remaining 10 minutes, I will now touch on this. Happiness reduces stress and inflammation. It can prevent people from falling ill, reduces stress, reduces inflammation. And it's so that these cytokine markers are reduced with happy state of mind. It is associated with favorable biological response, low cortisol level, fast cardiovascular stress recovery, stress, reduce infection resilience. So these are not my quotes. These are all published literature that I'm talking about. Hemodiversity and biomarkers of inflammation. These all things have been published as a peer-reviewed article. And the crux is that it brings increased longevity, elders are less frail, increases self-confidence, and builds better energy resources. Heart health also is improved. It lowers heart rate and blood pressure, lowers risk of stroke and coronary disease. It improves the immunity, it improves the pain and inflammation, and it is anti-stress. So there are a lot of benefits of remaining happy. So how do you remain happy? First of all, from the fear you have to get out. So be mindful of how you feel by identifying and acknowledging your feelings and put down a piece of paper. It is normal to feel vulnerable at a time like this, and you are not alone. You see, the whole world is suffering, so you are not alone. So why worry? You know, and these viruses have history of coming and going in 1 or 2 years, usually should go away. Whatever WHO or others may say, think a positive frame of mind that this will also go away. Nothing is permanent in the world. So this will also go away. Thirdly, that only 1 to 3% of people die, those who have comorbidity and others. Why you should worry? You are taking all these precautions. Why you should worry? You are not going out. You are not violating the norms. Why you should worry? And then you have been living with these viruses all through centuries. Like you have learned to live with Pakistan and China, and every day you don't bother about those countries, though they are doing a lot of damage. That way you think that this is Pakistan, so stay with that. I mean, in a lighter way. So learn to live with all this and improve your positivity, suppress your fear. And I believe me, there will be some way out. There will be a lot of innovation, and things will be fine. So take, if required, these are self-counseling things. If required, take psychiatry help, change the focus, learn. change your fear to some creative activity, do engage. If you don't have any creativity, go and help your wife in your kitchen, okay? Or do some other good stuff, clean your all cupboards and rearrange things, do creativity, compassion, devotion. I think very important. There are a lot of people around us, children particularly and elderly, who are suffering. Go and feed them, pay them, give them money to eat. This is our duty of time. This is the way forward. And when you give them something, don't allow them to feel obliged. It is who you are getting obliged that people are receiving from your end. That kind of attitude you should. People go and donate some 5,000 rupees and make a check and then take photograph with it and then post on social media. This is all nonsense. Good deeds are never done like this. Your right hand should not know if your left hand is giving. Okay, so that is a compassion. And do spiritual practices. Help others. Compassion. So body-based relaxation strategies is slow diaphragmatic breathing, yoga, relaxation, massage, etc. And mind-based relaxation strategies are meditation, body scan, prayer, and all of this. So that is the last part of my talk, and I think it is most important for all of you to take the important tips. How do you do spirituality, and how does it help? There are 5 layers. One is do spiritual reading daily, good books, Gita, or whatever spiritual, Karmavad or some Tattva Sutra, whatever. Satsang, talk with good people, chanting and devotion. The webinars like this is also a satsang to my mind. And I compliment once again. Chanting and devotion, prayer, meditation. Friends, there is a lot of science in all these things. It's not my own thing. The neurotheory branch deals with all these. What are the scientific and neurological proofs of these spiritual practices? How does it help brain and all those things? Which we don't have time right now. Some other day we can do a full webinar on neurotheology. But right now I want to tell you, do some kind of spiritual reading, chant some good mantras, philosophy, reading and satsang and prayer. Pray for the uplift of mankind. Pray for the relief of mankind. Pray for peace and global welfare. Pray for the animal kingdom also. Also feed the dogs on the street. Also help cows, and also this is what the prayer in the active form. And when you do prayer, there are specific neurobiological changes in the brain. This is the limbic system area and amygdala and hippocampus. How the red part shows the cerebral blood flow. There is a SPECT scan, single photon emission computerized tomograph. It shows that during deep prayer activity, there is increased uh, signals in the limbic and parasympathetic area. There is reduced stress level, there is reduced blood pressure, reduced pulse, reduced respiration. You become in a yogic mode and your cognition improves. So these are the yogic things, Gyan Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raj Yoga. And then we talk a little about meditation before we wind up. The neurochemistry and neurophysiology of meditation is just the reverse of stress. Stress is the overactivity of sympathetic system, while meditation is overactivity of parasympathetic. Sympathetic system takes care of your fight response, flight response. So raising blood pressure, pulse, respiration to fight a situation is your sympathetic system. While if you see a yogi who is sitting calm, quiet, speaking very slowly, less, this is the parasympathetic system. So meditation, my friends, is a parasympathetic system. And I have a profound statement to share from Rumi. Rumi is a Sufi poet from Turkey. He said, please do me a little favor. Please do me a little favor. Search your own self within yourself. छोटा सा एक काम कर, तेरे ही अंदर तेरी ही तपास कर. That is meditation. although the meditation systems were very widely developed in India, the people in China, Egypt, and Turkey, and even Islamic currents, and Bible has also mentioned about the different mystic meditative currents. So, although we claim that a lot of meditative systems we have developed, but this video shows a Qigong system of meditation, balancing art, and that's how you do meditation. So meditation is a exercise of mind to keep it healthy and clean, as we do for body. It's a state of altered consciousness, the fourth stage of consciousness in neurotheology language. It's a spiritual ecstasy with a neurobiological manifestation. It is not a hallucination. Meditation is a neurobiological event, and every time you do good meditation, there will be specific changes in the neurotransmitters, neurocircuitry, and it helps profoundly in two different ways that we show. And then there are different meditation techniques which I don't have time to discuss. I will focus on. This is the Turkish Sufi meditation system. So that was a Turkish Sufi meditation system. Their Darweshis were doing deep prayer and devotion. They do these kind of whirling movements. So there are methods like breathing meditation, object meditation, focus on a sound, focus on a thought, focus on a sensual object, focus on a sensory perception, imagery, sound meditation. You have a lot of time these days, friends. Learn some meditation techniques online or go through the books and do that. And this will help you a lot. From those 8 basic techniques, there are 120 different methods like Patanjali, Dhyan, Anapanasati, Smriti, Upasthana, Vipassana, Preksha, Jain Dhyan, and lot many others. And while doing this study, we found that there is a complex circuitry that opens from left PFC to right PFC, prefrontal cortex, and then various neurobiological changes happen. And in short, if I would tell you, during this COVID-19, if you really want to relax and give positive signals to your brain, all these 5 spiritual things I mentioned, prayers, svadhyaya, satsang, etc., meditation is, I would say, the foremost. This is again a SPECT scan. This is the red part is depicting blood flow, and this is a prefrontal cortex here. And that prefrontal cortex in humans is responsible for cognition, thought, intelligence, prioritization, your judgment, executive functions. All these reside here. And during meditative sessions, you have increased blood flow, and that improves your cognition intelligence. And if you do repetitively for months and years, at least 30 minutes a day, think of the cognition that you will develop. You will be a profoundly more evolved person, pragyavan. Second important finding of meditative practice is reduced blood flow in the posterior parietal lobule, or called posterior superior parietal lobe, PSPL. And this part is responsible for our thoughts, desire, emotion, orientation to time, place, and person. And as you can see, the blood flow baseline is reduced during meditation. Therefore, friends, meditation brings down calmness, reduces your unnecessary thoughts, fears, emotions, anxiety, and your ego, attitude, etc. So meditation helps both ways. It increases your intelligent cognition, it reduces your mental foolish processes, and then, as I mentioned, it improves the autonomic nervous system, and that's how it improves the psychology, attitude, personality. So friends, there is pain everywhere. Pain is inevitable. It's true that we are all suffering because of this pandemic, and even then, when there was no pandemic, there were different other causes. The human race is getting mad for one or other reason periodically. And this is one example of extreme panic and extreme madness. So we have to fight the fear apart from fighting the virus. For virus, there is no drug as yet. We have to do all those things which we have discussed again and again, improve immunity, do pleasant activities, and take care of social distancing, mask and gloves and hand washing, etc. So pain is inevitable, but the suffering is optional. That is my final message, friends. That there is a problem. We cannot deny. Then there is a cause. That also we know. And the cause is virus, the fear, and the negativity. And that there is a way which we have discussed in this short time. And if you follow the path which we have discussed, whatever little I could give to you with my limited knowledge and resources, friends, I offer to you. And this is His Holiness Dalai Lama, with whom I had a chance to discuss all these things. And at the end, I want to thank once again all of you. I want to do namaste to all seniors, all those who gave me the chance. Namaste to all the listeners. And namaste and thanks to my students who helped me in getting some of the slides which were difficult and technical. Kusum, Mukesh, Gaurav, and Srivastava, etc. Heli, my daughter, and Chetsi, my another daughter. So all these people have helped me in collecting this material in little bits and pieces, and Shailesh Darji also. So thanks everybody, and I'm grateful. I appreciate the efforts, and I'm here to take few questions, and I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you very much. It is exactly 1 hour 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful, amazing, and interesting lecture. And I can see so many questions and enthusiasm among the participants. So we will be taking very few and selected questions related to the topic. Yes, I can read one question. So there is one question from Swarna Iyer. Sir, he is asking that what are the neurological disorder the patients affected with COVID-19 and how do doctors treat them, both of them simultaneously, COVID-19 and neurological disorder?
Neurological disorders. Hello.
Yes, sir.
We discuss all these neurological disorders in details: encephalitis, meningitis, acute encephalomyelitis. Then we talk about anosmia, loss of smell, loss of taste. We talked about neuropathic Guillain-Barré syndrome, strokes. Strokes occur because of hypoxia or inflammation. Both all these things of course, I could not elaborate all these great details, but we have covered every neurological disorder in my presentation. I think this gentleman might have come a little late. Otherwise, I had discussed all these neurological things.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
But
much.
I repeated them for his review. Okay.
Yes, yes, sir. Now we can take the next question. So one doctor sir is asking that sir, what is the importance of music in healing the life, and what are the biological changes that occurred during the meditation?
Biological changes in meditation, I think we discussed neurobiological aspects of the meditation, and then because it affects the immune system, it affects the parasympathetic nervous system, so the pulse, blood pressure, respiration rate becomes low. In brain, we have mentioned about the improvement of cognition, the intelligence and memory, etc. We have discussed how it cuts down the mental processes like thoughts, emotions, desires, etc. Now, regarding music, music is a very important thing, and music has a lot of effect on the different neurobiological systems. But if you permit, I think I will give you some profound information which I read a few years back from a nice text. Do we have 5-7 minutes, or what is the
Yes,
situation?
yes, sir. We can continue, sir.
Okay, so according to Indian music texts and spiritual texts, they have mentioned about the origin of universe and origin of music. Now, origin of universe, how universe was created. The Lord Vishnu, while lying on the Sheshnag Sayya, he one day suddenly had a desire to create. The desire of procreation created an energy, and he opened his eyes. Before that, there was nothing. They call it anada, nothing, no nad, nothing. Nad is noise. And because of this volitional activity and opening of eyes, there was a sudden movement, and that created an impact, and that they call is Big Bang. And that primordial sound, according to our text, is Om. And Om has now gone everywhere in the universe, across all the elements, including our human cells, and every cell has Om. Okay, very beautiful. The depiction is just fantastic. Then they say that out of this creation, that Om sound, the primary energy, according to the spiritual text, is sound, not the light, as per the Western thing. So sound started getting solidified over centuries, and where it was maximally solidified, it became the earth. Where it got little less, it became the jala, water. Little less, then vayu. Even less, that became space, akash. And even sukshma, that is our jiv. Okay? And then the nad was then consolidated. It was tried, they tried to bind it in bits and pieces. So from nad, tal was created. From tal, sur was created. Lay was created. So tal, lay, sur. And then when they started using a chand in a specific style, they created Geet. And from when they started singing it, the kavya became the Geet. And then when they tried to adore with multiple pleasant equipments, we call it music. So music had a lot of addition of rhythm, tal, sur, and different instruments, you can say, percussion instrument, and then other blowing instruments. And from then, when it was added with some movement, we call it dance, nritya. So this is how the creativity started. Nad, tal, lay, sur, chand, kavya, geet, sangeet, nritya. And when we use that sur for the prayer of God, we call it swara. Swara ki sadhana parameshwar ki. Okay? And then this being the primordial sound remaining in our body, in every cell, we resonate as a specific frequency. We have our own sur. Everybody has his own rhythm. And when our rhythm or sur is broken, okay, we fall sick. So one of the treatment of this kind of disease is music. There are experts in the world who can set right your rhythm or your sur. Okay, and if your sur or rhythm is broken, then you also become financially weak. Your faith becomes disturbed. That is what the text says. And there are, the treatment, ultrasound we use for diagnosis. We do ultrasound based clot busting as a treatment. So medical science also uses sound in different ways in diagnosis and treatment. There are lots of diagnostic and therapeutic aspects of sound. Music in brain has a specific circuit from temporal lobe, auditory cortex to prefrontal cortex, reverberating through basal ganglia, and then it has an impact on the brainstem and then on our nerves and muscles. So this is a very well studied system. We treat our Parkinson's patient with music and rhythm, and so many Alzheimer's patients, the disease is slowed down to some extent. This doesn't cure. I don't want to give a wrong message, but it has in control to some extent. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this.
Yes, thank you so much for this wonderful and interesting, very interesting to know that, sir. I think we should end this question answer session here. And now let us move ahead. And now I would like to call upon Dr. Pranav Srivastav sir, uh, Treasurer of Gujarat Science Academy, to present the vote of thanks to our speaker. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, sir, for such an engrossing and scintillating talk, which had all the wealth of information. I must admit that I was totally lost after listening to you, and I felt that there was so much to it in this talk that we could have a very easily have a series of lectures on different aspects which you covered. There were subjects and topics within subjects and then topics, and there were so many things linked together. I just could not come out of it, and the whole talk was really music to my ears and possibly to all people who are listening. It was really an honor to listen to you, sir, today. It was really my fortune. I, on behalf of Gujarat University, Gujarat Science Academy and Essence Tech, would like to express our deepest sense of gratitude to you, sir, for first of all very graciously accepting our invitation and for sparing your valuable time to speak during such difficult times. In his talk, sir, touched upon some very different subjects, yet highly pertinent subjects, which included neurology, psychology, and spirituality of COVID-19. I'm actually running short of superlatives to explain your talk. Sir started with the basics of COVID-19 and its origin, then went on with pathophysiological and epidemiological clinical features and management prevention strategies, and then talking something about fear of invincible and inevitable. He very subtly blended the three to give some very good relations between neuroscience of spirituality and spiritual psychology, which is a blend of spirituality and science. He expressed a lot on meditation, effect of music on brain, and the healing aspects of music, and many, many other aspects. These aspects of medical science have become very relevant as on today due to this unprecedented situation due to COVID-19 pandemic, where in addition to the physical well-being, the mental health is equally important, and that is what the entire talk was. I'm sure that all web audience must have really enjoyed his lecture and gained some valuable insights into the very, very important topic and relevant topic. I once again thank you, sir, for a very scintillating and a reassuring talk. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Stay well, stay safe, take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Once again, we thank from the behalf of organizers. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for allotting your time, precious time to this lecture. Thank you, sir. Once again, tomorrow we will meet at the same time on the same platform. Thank you all. Have a good day.